Naming a company. Naming your company is up there with being as challenging as coming up with the idea. It's got to really represent the essence of your brand. It's got to be memorable, easy to say. It's got to be something where the domain name is available. It's got to be good for SEO and SEM. I mean, that's a lot to think about. It's a tough but fun process, so I thought I'd outline a few notes on how we got to Shoes of Prey. Throughout the entire process, we thought about brand names that we loved and what made them impressive to us. Usually, it was that they were easy to remember and we loved the way that they felt when you said them. So something like Mimco or Google or Zappos, just really cool, easy names. And often we found ourselves being really drawn to things that were relevant in a clever way. On the very practical side of things, we all kept our laptops really nearby to us so that we could check if the domain and business name was available as we came up with ideas. We went through 3 phases of brainstorming. We started by taking what we'd created as the brand insight, which is women are predators of couture. It's that whole idea that, when I walk down the street or I read a magazine or I'm looking at Instagram, I kind of mentally snapshot all the things that I've seen and loved, and then I go hunting for them. We then broke that down into a series of territories. These territories were an actual name, like Michael, for example, something that related to design, something with respect to hunting, myths, legends, and play on words that were related to shoes. So we put all this effort into this mapping out, but unfortunately this didn't in of itself yield a name. The next thing we did is we started looking for naming methodology guides, and we found the Eagle guide, which is awesome, by the way, and I've put a link to that one below. There's a long guide and a short guide. Short guide should be enough. Anyway, this sets out a whole lot of ideas about how you can go about naming. They suggest doing a competitive analysis. If all of your competitors are going down one particular path, then it's pretty easy for you to start to differentiate. Secondly, they suggest that you don't name your business as describing exactly what you do. Your business name will always appear in the context of your business, so let your name do its work in other ways. The guide also says that names that are built around Latin or Greek roots can often come across as being cold, so they're not great to go with. It suggests instead that you look for things that have got really nice poetic, rhythmic kind of ways to saying them. They seem very warm and friendly and people love to say them. So think about it like Kleenex, Google, Zappos, Oreo. The guide suggests that you think about a really evocative name. So not something that talks about the good or service, but really instead evokes like the positioning of the product instead. So if you think about names like Apple and Virgin, they're super evocative. The only thing is that you have to make sure that what you're evoking is a really good match for what you're doing. The guide also suggests that you remember that taglines are also really helpful and help the brand name to rise up from its product or service. So if you think about things like Nike, just do it, Apple, think different, these taglines are super important to help support that name you choose. So all of this thinking that the Eagle Guide suggested to us really helped us with the exploration of the territories that we'd mapped out as our first step or phase of the process. But unfortunately, again, didn't in of itself yield us a brand name. Last but not least, when we'd amassed all of this information from the previous 2 phases, we did what we needed to do. We got a whole lot of wine, some good friends, some sushi, and we sat in the courtyard for a few hours and just threw ideas and words and phrases back at each other. And then my good friend Lisa, who I'd met in advertising days, put her hands to her temples and just blurted out Shoes of Prey. And I said, oh my God, that's it. And we fell in love with it instantly. However, that's not to say that we didn't have some hesitations. We wanted to be sure that we weren't the only ones that liked the name, so we went out to test it. We found, generally speaking, that women connected with it immediately, loved the way that it sounded, and really appreciated the duality of the word prey. We found with men, however, they really needed it to be framed up to understand it, and there wasn't that immediate connection. Given that our target audience was female, and still is female, this didn't seem to be a problem. As the new owners of this brand name, we started to think to ourselves as well, gosh, what if we go beyond shoes? What if we do other products? What would we do then? This is still something that we think about today, and I don't think we've quite solved that yet. Stemming from these concerns, we sat down to brainstorm again with Shoes of Prey as the benchmark name, and no other name ever came. So we agreed together that the concerns we had about men not connecting with it was okay because our audience that we were focusing on straight away were women. We decided that we would figure out what we needed to do if we went into other different SKUs and products. And we also decided that we needed to give this a go because it's very difficult to come up with a name and put your whole heart into it when we needed to see it come into its own context in life by putting it into market. It's very difficult to describe, but we come to accept brand names once we know what they stand for by their actions. I know Nike means great running shoes, so Shoes of Prey should come to stand for great shoes that I designed myself. That's how we came up with the name Shoes of Prey, and whenever I get asked about how we named the company and how to go about doing it, they're definitely the processes and resources I would recommend. So I'm sure plenty of you out there have gone through the naming process of your own companies before. So how did you do it? Did you have any other resources that were different or processes that you could share? Because I'm sure there are plenty of people watching who are trying to name their own company right now and would love your advice. If you are naming your own company and you've got any questions, please post them below, or hey, why not start a brainstorm? I'd love to help Jodie in the process of naming your company. And well, I guess that's it from me this week. I hope you have a great week. Don't forget to subscribe, and also don't forget, do everything before you're ready. Bye.